Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Dental Practice Launch Podcast. I am your host, Shane Simmons. I am the owner of Crimson Media. We are a dental marketing company that helps dentists build freedom in their practice through proven online marketing and also help them become less reliant on PPO referrals. And today I'm going to do things a little bit differently. Going to do a solo episode. Normally, we bring guests on and talk about a number of different topics. And our episode actually coming up next week is going to be all about dental insurance and whether or not you should be in network with those insurances. And we're going to be talking with Dana Moss from PPO Dental Consulting. So I'm really excited about that episode. But one thing I wanted to do this week and kind of why I took it solo is I get questions as we talk to a lot of startup practice owners or people who are aspiring to open their own startup practice. And many of the questions that I get, are kind of a repeating theme. And so I thought, well, why not just get on here and answer some of those most common questions and maybe it'll be able to help some people out. And this is going to be specifically around the marketing side and really growing a startup practice and making sure that you have new patients and that you're positioning yourselves the way you want. So today we're going to talk about some of the most common marketing questions I get from startup dentists. So the number one question I always get is, when do we start? When does the marketing start for a brand new startup practice? And the answer to that is somewhere between 6 to 8 months before the opening. What you don't want to do is start marketing the month before opening or the month of opening, because marketing is something, it's not like a magic button that you press and all of a sudden, patients will be in your doors. If that were the case, everybody would do it. But marketing takes time. It takes getting people in your community to see you many times, over before they actually schedule an appointment. And so the reason we say 6 to 8 months is a perfect time slot to start that opening or to start marketing before the opening is because that allows you time to document the journey of opening your practice, taking photos and videos of the before construction. And then once you get the permitting and then doing the construction itself and showing the demolition and the progress that's being made, you want to ideally be posting that content on your Facebook, on your Instagram, and really getting the community involved and showing them part of this process. And so that's something that's really important. And then even when you're about 3 to 4 months before the opening, that's when you should start running some paid social media ads talking about the brand new dental practice coming soon and what are some of the things that make you unique and it's going to make the practice unique. And again, sharing that progress of the construction and the opening timelines and just getting the community involved and start running ads with that type of content. It does not need to look like an ad 3 months before the opening. It should look like you in the construction space where everything's a mess and talking about the hard work and things that have gone into this new practice, and also talking about the vision that you have for your dental practice and how it's going to be unique and different for patients. So that's the first thing. You want to really start doing your marketing for a startup 6 to 8 months before that opening. The second part here, which kind of leads me to as kind of like a follow-up, is more geared around creating what we call a coming soon page for your startup. And so this happens usually 5 to 6 months before the opening. But you want to have something that lives on a live website URL. So whatever your website's going to be, if it's going to be crimsondentistry.com, you would put this coming soon page on that crimsondentistry.com. And it's very basic, has just some information about the practice, some of the services that you'll be providing, a little bit about the doctor. And then there's a spot there where it should have an option to become one of the first patients for the grand opening. And you should do something special for those first 25, 50 patients for the grand opening. Maybe you're doing a free Sonicare toothbrush giveaway. Maybe it's a free teeth whitening. Maybe it's a swag bag of a bunch of cool swag items that are actually useful for people, but something that's going to collect that patient's information. So then that way you can start to reach out to those patients and give them email updates and put them in your Facebook and Instagram targeting so that you stay up to date, keep them up to date with how things are coming along with the practice. So again, that's usually somewhere 5 to 6 months before the opening. But the other effect that has that is kind of just a side effect of posting a website early or a coming soon page is it also allows Google time to get to know your URL a little bit, and it will start to crawl this site even though it's not your full website, but it starts to familiarize itself with your site. And that's really important because that's going to make the SEO and search engine ranking process come along much quicker. So that's kind of the third piece of this is just getting that initial SEO in process and start building out some directory listings and things like that really start to build credibility with Google. And of course, if you have any questions about that, you can reach out to us at Crimson Media Dental Marketing. Our website's crimsonmediagroup.com, and reach out and we can talk to you a little bit more about that and what our process looks like. So get that coming soon page published so that way you can start getting patients information from your ads that you're running leading up to the grand opening 3 or 4 months before. They're coming to this landing page, they're filling out the information, and you're starting to build that patient list. As we get closer to the opening, what we suggest is running an emergency campaign once the practice is actually open. And the emergency campaign is great for startups because it gets patients in the door right away. But what we've also found is when a new patient comes to the practice, they're in pain, they're having issues, you get them out of pain, you can get them seen because you're going to have some more openings and availability in a startup practice. Oftentimes they find, what you've built is, unique. There's not a bunch of people in the waiting room, and there's not, this kind of like congested feeling that you can get sometimes. And so an emergency campaign specifically on Google Ads where people are actually searching for emergency dentist, same day dentist, things like that is critical because you can get those patients in, see them the same day. And oftentimes we see those patients get put on the hygiene schedule as well. So you get some top end production right off the bat, but then also can get that patient onto hygiene. So that's the last one that I just mentioned there is making sure that we're running an emergency campaign on Google Ads. And then the last piece of, advice that I would give and a common question that I get as well is for the opening of the practice, how do we, stand out? How do we be unique? And that's where, at Crimson Media, we really push having custom content on your website, custom photography, custom videography, because unless you're just in a really rural area, if you're trying to compete with other practices based with a website that looks like everybody else's, stock photos, think about it from the consumer side of things, it's going to be hard. And really it's going to drive you down to where you're going to feel like you're going to have to start competing based on price, and you're going to have to start doing really cheap cleaning and exams and x-rays. And before you know it, you're going to dig yourself in a hole where you're going to be doing that. And it's going to be hard to get out of it. So by having custom photography, videography, things that really show what the patient experience is going to look like, having language in your website and your ad copy that talks about the easy experience that going to the dentist can be, the soothing experience, the anxiety-free experience, and really talking to those patients who maybe have had negative experiences in the past, it's going to allow you to stand out. And we call that relationship-based marketing. And it is so powerful because it's a way that you can make an impact in your community, really show people what makes you different, and do so while still attracting the type of patient that's going to respect your fees and respect what you charge at the end of the day. Because if you get a lot of people who are just looking for the cheapest dentist, if you're running ads that are cheap dentist near me and $29 cleaning exam x-ray, those are going to be typically harder patients to keep around. So you want to make sure that you're attracting the right type of patient for the practice that you want to build. So make sure that you have custom photography, videography work throughout your website, throughout your marketing campaigns, so that you actually stand out and you're different. And last piece of advice here I'm going to give, this is a big one. And if you stuck around to the video, the end of this or the end of the podcast, this is, the best piece of advice I could possibly give. When you're picking out your website URL, look for something that has the keywords of what people search in the area. So for example, dentist in Indianapolis.com. Even if your practice is Crimson, Smiles, or whatever the case is, having that URL as the location and then having that dentist keyword in it is going to be like a huge head start. It'd be like if you were going to do a 100-meter dash and you were starting at the 50-meter mark. When it comes to your SEO, that's the best way that I can describe on having a URL like that. So depending on where you're at, you may have a hard time finding that URL, but you'd be surprised how many variations you can find that are still out there and available. So your website URL should have the location in it. It's going to expedite your process. And then you can still pick out whatever the name of your practice is.com and forward that traffic to this URL. But that's one of the biggest piece of advice that I can give you right out the gate. So thank you so much for listening. I know this was a kind of a quick, short little episode, but these are some of the most common questions, I get asked about in talking with startups every single day. And these are some of the easiest solutions that I can recommend for a startup practice to ensure that you're going to start successfully. And as always, if you're looking for help with your dental marketing, whether it's a startup or an established practice, be sure to reach out to us at crimsonmediagroup.com and sign up and book a call with our team. And we'd be happy to chat with you a little bit more about what we do. But with that being said, thanks again for listening to the Dental Practice Launch Podcast.